let's make sure we got everything's good to go. Another edition of Rapid Reaction. Just got a chance to talk with Mike Woods, Myron Cunningham, Treylon, Burks, and Dorian, Gerald. Just a little while ago, we're going to get a chance to talk with Sam Pittman and a couple student athletes tomorrow night. Just want to make sure this is working. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to text them below. We'll kind of just recap what these guys said. Make sure when you're on this, guys, that if you like this segment or like this kind of thing we're doing new, that you share it. If you're on Facebook, if you want to share it, on Twitter, if you want to retweet it, share the YouTube link, whatever the case may be, just to kind of get as much reaction on this as possible and get as many people in here. If you do have a comment or stuff, we'll post it up here with this cool software that allows us to post your question, post your comment, following whatever the case may be. So I'm going to start with Treylon, even though he went last. I think he's probably the most important, the guy that you want to hear from the most, the star wide receiver out of Warren, Arkansas. And it was funny when you're asking this question. Bob asked it first, how bad do you want to get in the end zone after not getting there as a freshman? And he kind of played it off as, I just want to do whatever it helps my team make plays, whatever the case may be. But if you're a star player, if you're the caliber of player that Treylon Burks is, you're absolutely itching to get in the end zone in 2020. I mean, this is a guy that was all over the place for the Warren Lumberjacks in high school, and then all of a sudden he doesn't get utilized. And it just blows my mind that you have this high caliber, top wide receiver in your roster, highly decorated, highest recruited, may or may not have been the highest recruited player in this class, and you didn't use him enough. So already got a comment here. Again, y'all, if you have a comment, post them in, and we'll get them up here in this video. This comes from Ryan Cameron. He says the Veer Burks in the backfield. We asked him about that, right? I actually asked him, I was like, hey, man, you ran some Wildcat last year. Do you have any desire to run some Wildcat? You talked to Coach Brawls about that. And he says he'd like to do it. Now, he said he's not the type of guy to go and tell Coach Brawls that, hey, I want to do this year. But that would be, I think, a play and a set and just a formation that you would probably want to utilize if you're Kendall Bryles. This guy needs to touch the ball a ton. So, by the way, Reese, yeah, jawline doesn't look great here, so I need to start running again. Camera adds 10 pounds is what I was told. So, but no, with if you're Treylon Burks and really just this whole offensive staff, you got to get this dude the football any way you can, whether it's out of the backfield, whether it's throwing screens, whether it's dink and dunk. They're going to take some shots this year. Kendall Bryles is known for that. You look at his offense over the years, that's how it is. So you're really hoping that they take advantage of his speed. He talked about he's lost a little weight, but he hasn't lost his speed. That's going to be an important aspect on all of that when it comes to just getting the offense on track. One of the biggest things you have to do, not only with Rakeem Boyd, is get him going, but you got to get Treylon Burks in the end zone. You got to give him as many touches, as many opportunities you can with this whole thing. I just think this season, I would be shocked, floored, blown away if Kendall Bryles doesn't make it from the jump that this guy is going to be a major part of this offense this upcoming season. And he just talked about the differences between both Sam Pittman and Coach Morris. One of the things he said that I thought was interesting, guys and gals, is that Coach Pittman treats every player the same. He mentioned him and Rakeem Boyd being treated similar to what a walk-on would be treated, which I think is important. Like the phrase that I think it was Jimmy Johnson that coined this phrase that treat every player fair but different. I think I believe that was correct. Like Troy Aikman fell and Jimmy Johnson cut him, and I think he was asked by a media member, kind of the coaching mentality. Like, yes, star players get special treatment, but you want to treat everyone fair as best you can. It seems like, based on what Treylon's saying, as one of the star players on this football team, that's occurring on that. And I think that you just hope that he really gets going. And listen, Kendall Bryles has had a massive track record of success when you think about wide receivers. That's really what he was before. He's the passing game coordinator before he took over the offensive coordinator role. And really, I mean, you think about the wide receivers that they had, Baylor. I mean, there are so many good ones that have come through Waco and that Kendall Briles was a part of. And you just hope that this next crop of wide receivers, I know Darren Turner is the freshman that a lot of you are excited about, Treylon Burks and Trey Knox being the sophomores of the group, Mike Woods, who had the best yardage and best most amount of receptions tied with C.J. O'Grady this past year. That's why you're excited about this upcoming unit. And I think it's important that the environment that they have there is up to par, up to speed, because it wasn't last year. And there, you could tell that players let go of the rope at this point. And what Treylon also mentioned during this press conference that's going to be up shortly on hitthatline.com as well as our YouTube channel is they're trying to let go of the past. They've come together in the locker room and say, we're trying to let go of the past, which, again, is important because, yes, you don't want to repeat your mistakes, but at the same time, you have to let things go. I thought Tommy has several times in the morning rush has spoken over and over again. Hey, yes, the past is important, but at the same time, at a certain point, you got to let it go. You got to just put it aside. And what that reminds me of is, for those who've seen the movie Invincible with Mark Wahlberg, he keeps that note from his, I'm forgetting if it's his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, but he keeps that note in his locker saying, you'll never amount to anything, you're never going to be this, you're never going to be that. And finally, before, I believe that, they're playing the Giants because, not him, what's her name? Something Banks. I think it's Elizabeth Banks, who's eventually his girlfriend, is a Giants fan. He ends up just ripping up the paper right before the game and just saying enough is enough. And I think the players, trying to tie that into all that, they need to do the same thing. Yes, if I'm a player, I'm sick and tired of hearing what people keep talking about as the last 2 years or even the last year. And as a radio host, I'm sick and tired of talking about a 2-10 win football team. I would much rather talk about an Arkansas team that was competing for the SEC West. We'll see how long that actually takes. But at a certain point, these guys have to just say, screw what happened last year. We're done. Important note that we need to discuss, Ryan brings it up. Sam was coaching the offensive line today, Coach Pittman. And what we were and was not out there today. Information on that, but that's why you saw him on the film, and that's why it's gonna be written about. You'll see it on hitthatline.com and other outlets that he was not out there today. We don't know the timetable on Coach Davis missing out, but that is what we were told as far as that is concerned. And I'm curious, as a guy that's kind of figuring out this whole head coaching thing, Coach Pittman mentioned last week that he's just kind of writing down stuff on what he wants to do differently by practice and what he felt like went well, what he felt like went bad. I'm curious to see just how that impacts the team depending on how long Coach Brad Davis is out. We talked about Kendall Briles and his offense. This comes from Myron Cunningham. Him talking about the pace of play, apparently a lot faster than it was this past season. So I know that we kept hearing from Coach Morris that this is going to be an up-tempo offense, go, and it just never got off the ground. It's like an airplane that was just forever sequestered in whatever air base, naval base it's at. It just never took off. And you hope from the jump. It's going to be tough because Georgia is one of the best defenses in college football, but you hope that you'll see some signs of life early on with this Arkansas football team on offense. And we'll see, hopefully, defense as well. But I'm curious with the offensive line gaining weight. It's been marked weight as far as that's concerned. I'll turn this up as best I can. Is that better? Make sure. I think I turned it up a little bit. But as far as the offensive line is concerned, guys, the offensive line has gained a lot of weight. And I'm curious, as a unit that's trying to go up-tempo and it's trying to be faster and stuff, how does that affect the ability to be fast and stuff? Or these guys can be in shape and stuff? That's a question I have. And I think Coach Pittman, obviously it's a better question for Coach Pittman, Coach Briles, and Coach Davis, but I think that's a question that's kind of been lingering to me, is how this offense is going to look with them being gaining a lot of weight. And if it's good weight, then that's a good thing, but I'm just kind of still iffy to see how that meshes together when it comes to gaining more weight and then just them being an up-tempo offense, what they're trying to establish. So I think that's something that you hope meshes well together as far as that. And this comes from Dorian Gerald. He talked about how he's felt like that he's become tougher and gotten stronger and stuff. You think about that he missed basically all of last season with I've heard bruised artery, I've heard strained artery, I've heard a lot of different words associated with an artery. Nevertheless, he missed last season, and this is a guy that you really needed on that defensive line that just got pelted over and over and over again. And you're hoping that he can establish himself early this season because Arkansas is going to need some guys up front that can be disruptive. You think about some of the studs that have come through. To me, the guys that stand out the most is Beckett and Jamal Anderson. You think about 2006, 2010, 2011. The offensive guys are always going to get the credit, but Beckett and Anderson, man, were just absolute barn burners. I mean, they got after you and were all over the place. They got to have some guys that can get after the quarterback because you're playing some good quarterbacks this year. Now, it's not Tua Tagovailoa, it's not Joe Burrow, but I mean, I know Kellen Mond is one of the guys that Texas A&M fans are hoping takes that next step. We'll see what Mac Jones is at Alabama this year. Bryce Young is the quarterback by the time. I'm under the anticipation that Bryce Young is going to be QB by the time Arkansas plays Alabama. Chris also, Chris is out. He brings up Trey Flowers. Yeah, that's another guy. I just think that Trey, unfortunately, was a part of some teams that weren't as notable when you look at the teams that he was on. So, but yeah, they need some defensive linemen to step up, and they're hoping. I know Coach LeBlanc and Sam Pittman, everyone else on that staff is hoping that Dorian, as well as Xavier Kelly, the Clemson transfer, and some of the younger guys, Marshall, and then Jashad Stewart, Gerald brought up that he's been really quick off the line and he's been impressive. That's very important for this football team that they have some good defensive line presence. All right, in case you're just hopping in, this is kind of the new thing we've been doing. It's rapid reaction, whether it's press conferences, whether it's breaking news. If you have a question or comment, send them in. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and we'll post your comments and we'll react to them here as we continue out through the program. Dorian Gerald also mentioned that Myron Cunningham, who we got a chance to talk to as well, is really standing out. Cunningham said they had a little bit of a dust up today between the offensive and defensive linemen, which it was funny because whenever we'd go to practice, it seemed like Dan Skipper was always the one that was in the middle of a skirmish, which I always enjoyed. I like when the offensive and defensive get to a breaking point. And, I'm not talking about an all-out brawl, but I do like to see some animosity between the two units. And I know that people say, well, it's the Arkansas Razorbacks, it's the whole team. But you got to have some competitive nature, a competitive spirit about you. And I think you see that every once in a while. So, again, we're going to have this press conference up shortly of the three players. We got a chance to talk with Dorian Gerald, Treylon Burks, and Myron Cunningham, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and star wide receiver. Really excited to see. I think with just Treylon Burks, you hope that he is just everywhere this year. He talked about, and I think it was Hutchinson. Hutch asked him, hey, taking kick returns, punt returns, you do whole 9 yards. What do you think about that? Are they overusing it? He's like, man, I want to do it all. I want to do everything I can. That's the type of player you want. Esque type of game breaking ability because he really hasn't been afforded the opportunity. And I don't know if you'll ever see a guy in a Razorback uniform that has that type of he's gone potential where he can take it from 0 to 80 in about 8 seconds, as Mark Jones called it. But I think with him, he definitely has the uncanny ability to make plays. And how you let a guy make plays is you give him the football. I feel like I don't have this coaching resume or background and stuff, but sometimes the easiest answers are the simplest ones. And the simple fact of the matter is that they did not utilize him enough this past season. You would think a guy, Chad Morris, that had a Sammy Watkins, that had a DeAndre Hopkins, that had a Martavius Bryant, that had some of the best players that Clemson has ever had offensively, you think he would notice a type of player like Treylon Burks and do whatever it takes, and it just didn't work. I'm also hoping with a revamped offensive line that the Wildcat can be successful because I think that everyone watching right now loved watching Darren McFadden wind up in the Wildcat. Treylon threw the ball a little bit in high school. If I remember correctly, he had 3 touchdowns his senior year, something like that. So you're hoping that he can have some type of success in the Wildcat formation. So, all right, that's going to close it out for this edition of Rapid Reaction. We're going to talk to Coach Sam Pittman tomorrow, and I think 2 student athletes, if I remember that correctly. I think that's going to be at 6, and we'll have another one of these tomorrow night. Make sure you tune in to the Morning Rush tomorrow from 6 to 9 a.m. You can listen on hitthatline.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're all on the video stream there. We're also on the TuneIn app. And then 95.3 in Fort Smith, the River Valley, 104.3 Harrison Mountain Home, 96.3 in Hot Springs, Central Arkansas, and then 97.1 in Camden. I've heard people tell me that the 104.3 signal gets to Conway, gets to Little Rock. We've had a couple Little Rock callers that are calling in. I think it just depends on the day, but we definitely have a statewide presence, and we'd love for you to tune in this morning because we got a good conversation ahead, and it's going to be fun. All right, that's going to do it. Talk to y'all tomorrow.